Right, so greetings everybody. Today is Monday the 23rd of January 2023 and I have a special guest today with me here on the channel. We have Stuart here. He's not a stranger to Courage is the Cure. How are you going, Stuart?
Outstanding. Lovely to see you as always, Robin.
Fantastic. So I have you here today. I wasn't able to get down to the wall, but I have you on here today to give us an update about this morning, because we do know that on Friday stalking was back on, but Saturday and Sunday stalking was off and we were allowed to be at the wall. So I'm wondering today, the 23rd, what has happened on the wall today?
Well, I got a image of the 16 protesters standing out the wall today, and they're all in their beautifully coloured umbrellas, standing peacefully. And they told us that there was a number of officers. I think there's about 6 to 8 officers, and they were saying good morning.
Wow.
It was quite polite, and there was no move-on orders. So I think something has really happened over the last couple of days. Maybe there's some cool heads actually starting to look at what actually is going on down there. And as I said the other day, the police are looking more and more ridiculous and heavy-handed. And it's obviously it's becoming more obvious that the whole thing is entirely political. And I think they decided perhaps that they better back off. So it'd be insane, because it's been 3 days in a row now where the umbrella people have been assembling in front of Governor House, and there's been no Inspector Tyte or demoted Inspector Tyte, Senior Sergeant Tyte there anymore. And and you should have seen the body language of the police on Saturday when I was down there. They looked very uncomfortable. They looked as if they wanted to be somewhere else, actually.
Yes.
And it was interesting. There was this Sergeant Irons. He was the most senior person there on Saturday, and what he did effectively was throw his fellow police officer under the bus, because he said to me, "No, you're able to stand here. You have no problems. We're not going to give you a move-on notice, and you're not stalking." So I just hope that Sergeant Irons, he just seemed to be, he thought the whole thing, it seemed to me by his body language, he thought the whole thing was a bit ridiculous. And I just hope he doesn't get ripped a new one, because he didn't read the memo, from this unnamed person who Sergeant Tyte is obviously protecting. He made a Freudian slip the other day when he admitted that he'd explained to me what he already had to do, which was a completely false statement. There's a 3-letter word which I could use instead, but I will just leave it as a false statement. Yeah. And he hadn't told me what he had to do, and he refused to tell us. He said, I'm not going to answer that. He's refusing to tell us who he's protecting. Now, look, he's only a puppet. What we're after is knowing who's the puppet master, who's driving this, who's the one who's actually at the highest levels introduced this incredibly BS claim that people are stalking down at Governor House. It's just absolutely insane. And look, I think they'll find that there's only been one person who's actually been charged with stalking, and I believe it will be completely dismissed, because I know there's no evidence. When he gave me a move-on notice, he didn't provide any evidence whatsoever. He even refused to say to me, answer the question, how many times I had to be there to be a stalker. Look, there's people that stand at the bus stop every single day. They're down there a lot more than I am. So why aren't they getting issued move-on notices?
That's right. Well, yes, you were issued a move-on notice, and on Friday, so that makes it the 20th of February, we had another gentleman just on Friday that was given a move-on notice. And move-on notices are given to people when the police suspect someone is going to commit a crime or they have committed a crime, and the crime they suspect people of committing is stalking. We know it's ridiculous. The police Well, certainly most of the officers that are down there, I would suggest know that that's ridiculous. And so, you know, we talk about an abuse of police power. I think certainly with these move on notices, in this case out the front of Government House, I can't term that anything else than an abuse of police power. That's for sure.
So what I've got here on this computer, here is the actual. I don't know if you can see that. I put it on this computer. This
Yep.
is the. Is that back to front? Can you see that? Is that?
No, it's the right
Can
way.
you read that?
Yep.
Now the interesting thing is. Oh, that's good. So the interesting thing is, PC Holland wrote me this notice, and he didn't allow to sign the thing. And do you know what he wrote instead of trying to get my signature for this? This is the move on notice. And he wrote COVID risk. So he didn't get me to sign this ridiculous form because he considered it was a too high a COVID risk. Now, if you remember the other day when you got assaulted by that bald cop, Bowen, I think his name was.
Yep.
They were trying to surround me. I was surrounded by these police, all within 1 metre of me, and they didn't think I was a COVID risk back then. So the whole thing is another farce, an example of how they're not thinking straight. They're not that bright, really.
The police are willing to make a false statement on that move on notice instead of getting you to sign it, putting COVID risk, when they've just been corralling you and surrounding you. And the officer that actually issued you that notice was one of the officers who was amongst it with acting Inspector Tight at the time. So he certainly wasn't concerned then about any kind of COVID risk. So as far as I can see, that's a false statement on a move-on notice. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, that's an added one because we also have Inspector Tight saying that anyone was not allowed, the umbrella people were not allowed to actually go to Government House. Now, there was no court order. There was no restraining order. He just made that up. So that was a false statement as well. They're allowed to go there. As we found out from Sergeant Irons that I was allowed to be there. He said that. So and I asked five policemen, and they all thought, "Yep, yeah, no problems with me being there whatsoever." So this is based on the personal ambition of a sergeant who wants to be made up to inspector, who's been given the opportunity to, if he can get rid of all those pesky protesters outside of Government House. And look, we don't even know, he wouldn't even tell us who I'm supposed to be stalking. How can you stalk someone when you don't even know who it is?
That's right.
It's completely and utterly insane. It's something, it's like a Monty Python skit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the good news is the umbrella people are back there today, and it's 3 days in a row that they're down there, and the police are just ignoring them, as they should, because they're peaceful protesters. I issue a challenge to Sergeant Tight. I say to you, next time I'm down there, charge me with stalking, and let's go to court, because I'm going to have you up on the witness stand, and I want you to give evidence as to why I could possibly be stalking. I don't even know who's in there. I don't know. I'm just standing holding a sign. It's got nothing to do with stalking. It's all political. And if you do that, I will, of course, sue you for wrongful arrest, and we'll see you in court, and we'll find out who's your puppet master. Okay, we'll find out who it is, who spoke with who. We'll get the receipts. We'll find out where all the emails are coming from, and I challenge you to arrest me, because I don't think you will, because you know you don't want to be up in front of that witness stand, and your puppet master doesn't want to be up on that witness stand either.
Well, that's quite the challenge there, Stuart. It's just laid down. I'm very happy that everyone's back on the wall again. It's what's the soccer term they use, a hat trick, when you have 3 successive wins like that. But I was reading an article the other day in the West Australian. It was Tom Penglis, and he's the executive founder of the Western Australian Justice Association. And he wrote an opinion piece about the extensive powers that through the past 18 months, the McGowan government, majority government, has been able to give the West Australian Police, in particular these PEP, so the Liquor Act has been amended, and the police can now issue 6-month bans and anywhere up to 5 years with on the advice of the Commissioner to keep violent and dangerous people out of entertainment precincts like Hillary's, Fremantle, Perth, now in Western Australia. One of my concerns is that quite possibly these lengthy bans, instead of move-on notices for 24 hours, these lengthy bans might be used with the umbrella people. And even more of a concern is that the behaviours that the police justify in giving these executive notices to people, we're not privy to what that behaviour is. That information is not available to the public. You can't get it through a Freedom of Information Act either. It's up to the police and the Commissioner as to what type of behaviour would constitute giving someone a 6-month, possibly up to 5-year ban. And like I said, I have a concern that they might try and give these to some of the umbrella people. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about these extensive powers that the West Australian Police have now.
Well, it's interesting. Some of the Liberals who passed the legislation which allowed McGowan to do what he did thought, oh, these will never be put into practice. Then why on earth did they vote for them? And as Michael from Cafe Lockout asked, don't you think we're in a police state already? And we've already seen that this legislation, which enables the police to knock down our doors without a warrant and take everything, and even have a dump in our toilet without a police warrant, and take over our place and throw us into quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
This is a police state. So this is just another example of how the police are moving towards getting extra powers in the justification of safety. Everything's in terms of safety, and it's been abused. The move-on laws are being abused, and I believe, as you say, these other laws could be abused for political purposes, and there's no oversight. There's virtually no oversight of this legislation. So it is extremely concerning and distressing. So.
Yeah, particularly with these new PEPs, because apparently you can't go to court to challenge these PEPs. You have to go to the Liquor Commission to challenge these orders. Now, I find that very interesting.
Yes, doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
No.
So, unelected bureaucrats. Yeah.
So yeah,
they shouldn't have such powers.
No, and it just makes me think back to when Mr. McGowan, and I quote, made everyone's life more difficult 12 months ago, when he segregated the unbadged people from the rest of society. We weren't allowed to go into alcohol shops, and it was I think it was the Liquor Commission that complained, and that got lifted after 2 weeks. Funny that, isn't it?
That's it's hilarious, because people were allowed to wander around inside the liquor shop, but they just weren't allowed to buy anything. How insane is that? But that's that's just one example of the complete and utter insanity.
That's right.
Where bureaucrats are running wild and loving the power that has been given to them. And of course, anyone who digressed from that was shouted down as some sort of heretic and not concerned for the safety of the doctors and the nurses, and were granny killers. So, and now the truth's coming out that the with all the vaccine injuries and the New South Wales data, which showing that the people going to hospital are the ones who are quadruple jabbed, and there's not a single unjabbed person going to hospital. So you won't hear that in the mainstream media, of course. No,
no, of course not.
because the media is the mainstream. We have to depend on the independent media like you guys to hear that.
Well, I think Senator Gerard Rennick just posted a couple of days ago. No, sorry, it wasn't. It was who was the fella from UAP? Not Clive, the other one. Oh, anyway, I can't remember now. Anyway, but he just posted online and has shown how Victoria are now fudging the numbers because you used to be able to see how many doses people had or not had that were in hospital, but now they've changed how they report that, and it's a complete falsity of how they're now reporting them. But anyway, so back to the umbrella people. It's great that we've got people back on the wall 3 days in a row. It's always a mystery what's going to happen tomorrow and even next week. But it's a week ago, I was on Cafe Locked Out saying it was fantastic. People were back on the wall, and then the very next day, there was move-on notices again. So who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But I appreciate the update from today, Stuart. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, my challenge to Sergeant Tite will be in force. So the next time it's down there, why don't you arrest me, and then I will sue you personally for false arrest, and let's go to court. Let's sort this out, because I believe Sergeant Tite, you're lying. Your superiors are putting you under pressure, and the puppet master is not happy that we're down there, and not happy that courage is a cure, that Max Freedom, Scorpion Meter is out there and reporting this, and it's getting international attention, and it's embarrassing them. So we issue the challenge. Come on, guys, do it. Arrest us, and we'll see you in court, and I'll sue every last one of you.
Well, there we have it. Well, I must congratulate you, Stuart, because I did say on the stream the other day, a lot of people are uncomfortable to put themselves in positions such as you do, especially just talking to police. So I know certainly I appreciate what you do down there and everywhere else as well, to do with freedom and against tyranny and globalism. So, and thank you very much today for coming on Courage is Secure.
You're very welcome. Now I'm going to watch Djokovic. I never watched your tennis, but I believe Djokovic is playing, and we want him to win, don't we? So that's happening next hour or so. So I'm going to enjoy my break now. Good to speak with you, Robin.
Okay, until my next video, I'm going to say bye.